Hello, guys. A very warm welcome to the session number 53. The new chapter, new trends. Now, the subtitle is GATT. Very interesting. Okay, a quick recap before that. A global outsourcing we have learned about. We learned about its benefits and its costs. Okay, we learned all about that. And the learning objectives of this is the objective of this session is to make you understand the history of GATT and its transformation, what it transformed into, how it transformed, and what are the factors that made it to transform. The students will have a clear understanding. I mean, after this session, you guys will have a crystal clear understanding of the GATT. So we have a small introduction to the GATT and the history of the GATT, objectives of the GATT, and achievements of the GATT. So what actually is the GATT? GATT is nothing but General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. It was signed on October 30, 1947. Please remember the date, which is very easy. It is just 2 months from our uh, 2 months, 15 days from 15, 16 days from our independence. The year is signed 1947, but October 30. It was signed by 23 countries, in which Britain was also a party. Was a legal agreement. It's a legal agreement for 23 countries, minimizing barriers to international trade by eliminating or reducing quotas. GATT was a legal agreement, and what was decided, what was in the what kind of and what information did it carry? It is for minimizing barriers of the international trade by eliminating or reducing quotas, tariffs, subsidies, while preserving significant regulations. The GATT was intended to boost economic recovery after World War II through reconstructing and liberalizing global trade. This was a very noble um, noble agreement which was by the 23 countries, and hence it proved to be. Let us see how it proved. The history of the GATT. Let us see a quick history of the GATT. The Council of Trade the Council of Trade in Goods, there is Goods Council responsible for the GATT and consists of representatives from all WTO members countries. WTO is nothing but World Trade Organizations, and almost people who are in UNO leaving to, I mean, most people who are in UNO is also a member of WTO. It doesn't mean like the total, like they have exactly same membership. The membership is different, but still more or less it is the same countries. Now the general agreement on tariffs and trade was signed by, as you know, was signed in October 1947 after World War II. The World War II was so devastating that there was a reconstruction program of the economy. Many countries' economy had been collapsed. They could not be able to do anything. Hence, the World War II became after the World War, it was sensed that it is highly required that there should be a trade body in order to reduce quotas, minimize the trade barriers, as well as to reconstruct the devastated economies. And what's better than that? And became a law on January 1st, 1948. It was signed on October 1947. It took totally 3 months. It took 2 months to become a law. Okay, the GATT purpose was to make international trade easier, which it did. The GATT held 8 rounds from 1947 to 1993, and in 1985 the GATT was observed into the World Trade Organization (WTO), which extended it. Okay, GATT, what it transformed into? The GATT held 8 rounds. just to make 1947, from 1947 to 93, so many rounds were, the 8 rounds were in total held. And in 1995, just 2 years after all these rounds, the GATT was absorbed into the World Trade Organization, and World Trade Organization is doing all those works which GATT used to do. Now, let us see the objectives of GATT. The first objective of the GATT is to provide an international forum. It was, and to provide international forum for negotiations, for trade dealings, for transactions, okay, to encourage free trade between member states. It was a very important core objective of the GATT, is to see that the members have a good relations. If the relations are even strained, or if strained also, they made sure that the trade is not affected from that strained relationship. And to regulate the tariffs on traded goods, especially after the Second World War, there were so many the countries which were increasing their tariffs on the traded goods, and to reduce that. And so they started a regulating system, and after the regulation, they started reducing it and providing a common mechanism for resolving the trade disputes. Okay, there are so many disputes that they want to resolve. Then to expand the international trade by liberating trade, to ensure orderly and equitable expansion of the world, to strengthen and qualify rules for agricultural trade, better utilization of resources of the world. Achievement, what are the various achievements? Encourage international trade, encourage international trade, reduce the likelihood of the war. There was a very like Cold War, between Russia and America. There was all possibility that the Third World War could take place, but thankfully, thank God that that did not happen and it was averted. And one of the very important contribution was by the GATT in averting such a war, though on the trade grounds. And improved communication. There are so many countries we started communicating each other and making the trade very much easier to other countries. That also was one of the very important and big success for the GATT, and provided the platform for the dispute settlement, paved the way for the creation of enhanced apex body for world trade. And more than that, the much more important thing what GATT achieved was that it to transform itself, that is to pave the way for the apex body called World Trade, which is now the apex trade body in the world, and MFN status to all countries. The students who doesn't know the meaning of MFN, it is most favored nation. It was given, it is made rule in the WTO by the GATT, was that MFN title should be given to all those countries in which with whom you have trade relations. It is not that MFN you're just giving for 2 or 3 countries. You should give to all countries in which with which you trade. But yes, you can always withdraw that, citing so many other reasons which are approved by the GATT. Many times Pakistan and India has taken back the MFN status from the country Pakistan. Prohibited the restriction on imports and exports. That is also one of the important thing. And thank you guys. Let me wrap up the class. Meet you in another session.